Good morning, class. This is U.S. History, Thursday, April 2nd. This is your lesson for today. I just want to encourage you guys to make sure you are going every single day online and taking your quiz for every one of your classes. But this is a lesson for today, so we'll get into it. And then as soon as this is done, April 2nd, you'll go over and take your quiz. So, still talking about Thomas Jefferson and the Barbary Pirates. So we left off on Tuesday, 1798, the United States Navy was formed in direct response to the pirates. So the pirates in the Barbary Coast states had been attacking European vessels, attacking American vessels. The United States had negotiated the release of some of the sailors, some of the prisoners that were there that had been put into slavery, and they had also been paying some tribute money. But in 1798, in direct response to these pirates, the United States formed its own branch of the military United States Navy in direct response to the pirates. Okay, here's some pictures of the United States Navy at the time, early pictures. Roman numeral 4, the First Barbary War. Roman numeral 4, the First Barbary War, lasted 1801 to 1805. So letter A, Thomas Jefferson becomes United States' third president in March of 1801. So Thomas Jefferson had been involved with the Barbary Coast states for a while, but not as the president. He was the U.S. Minister of France. He was Secretary of State. And now, 1801, March of 1801, Thomas Jefferson becomes third president of the United States. Letter B, the Barbary states had been getting greedy and demanded a tribute payment. They set up a blockade to capture ships. So after we paid a tribute money to release some of the sailors, 115 sailors from Algiers, the Barbary states had been getting more and more greedy. They wanted more and more tribute money, demanding this money. So they even set up a blockade to capture any ships that came in, any American vessels that came in. They were going to capture them, attack them, steal their goods, enslave the sailors, etc. So Thomas Jefferson is now the president, 1801. They kept sending letters to Thomas Jefferson demanding more money, wanting more and more money, and Thomas Jefferson becoming president, blockade attacking American vessels. Letter C, Yusuf Karamanli declared war on the United States on May 14th, 1801 by chopping down a flagpole at the American consulate in Tripoli. So just a month or 2 months after Thomas Jefferson became president, Yusuf Karamanli in Tripoli, the leader there in Tripoli, declared war on the United States by chopping down the flagpole on the top of the consulate in Tripoli. So we talked about on Tuesday how after the Treaty of Tripoli was signed, we set up consuls in Tripoli and Tunis. But a few years later, Yusuf Karamanli, they had been demanding more money. They had been sending more and more letters to Thomas Jefferson, who had just been the president for 2 months now. So no money, no tribute money was given. So on May 14th, 1801, Yusuf Karamanli climbs on top of the American consulate building in Tripoli, takes an axe and chops down the American flagpole, essentially declaring war on the United States. Jefferson had already sent 3 frigates and a schooner to protect American vessels and set up their own blockade. So after Jefferson had found out word that the Barbary Coast states had been setting up a blockade, he had sent 3 frigates and a schooner to protect the American vessels and set up their own blockade. So at this time, obviously, they don't have modern day technology, so they're relying on messages going back, letters going back to take weeks and weeks, if not months, to go back and forth at the time. So there's a lot of delay in this communication process. So they get word that these blockades are set up. So Jefferson sends 4 ships to set up their own blockade. Now, of course, they have the Navy, United States Navy. So he sends ships. Jefferson sends ships to set up their own blockade to help defend American vessels in the Mediterranean Sea. These 4 vessels were commanded by Commodore Dale. When they arrived in North Africa, they found out they were at war. So they had not had word yet that Yusuf Karamanli climbed up on top of the building in Tunis and chopped down the flagpole. But when they arrived in North Africa, they found out that all that had happened and that they were at war with the Barbary Coast states. So the next few years, small naval fighting went on between the pirates and the United States Navy. The United States Navy trying to defend the American civilian vessels that were trading in those areas. So here's the area where they would fight, this purple area throughout here. So the Barbary States, of course, any ships in this area, U.S. vessels, American vessels would be attacked, and the American Navy was setting up ships too. Of course, they had 4 ships over there at this time. They were defending, trying to defend against the Barbary Coast Pirates to defend their American civilian vessels. Oops. Some more pictures of some fighting, naval fighting going on. 1803, the Philadelphia ran aground. So this is an American vessel, the Philadelphia. In 1803, it ran aground, was stuck, and all 307 members of the crew were captured by the Barbary Coast States. So this is an important and embarrassing story, but the USS Philadelphia ran aground, and all 307 sailors and crew members and people that were on board were captured. So the U.S. Navy forces snuck into the harbor and burned the vessel. So instead of letting the U.S. Philadelphia go into the hands of the enemies to use, the U.S. Navy snuck into the harbor in the middle of the night, burned the vessel, as we can see here in a couple of depictions. We have another one. So they sunk into the harbor, burned the USS Philadelphia. So of course they lost the ship, and it was definitely a loss for the Americans, but they didn't let it fall into enemy hands. 1804, Commodore Barron arrived in the Mediterranean with 11 more vessels. Obviously this fighting had been going on for years. We lost at least one of our ships already. So now Thomas Jefferson sends Commodore Barron with 11 more vessels. Of course, at this time our Navy did not have a ton of vessels, so we've been building vessels over this time, building more ships, and sending what we could over to the Mediterranean Sea as it got worse and worse. So the plan, Commodore Barron's plan when he arrived in the Mediterranean, was to use the exiled ruler Hamet Karamanli, who was the older brother of Yusuf Karamanli, to overthrow Tripoli. So Yusuf Karamanli is the ruler of Tripoli. He's the one that got on top of the roof, chopped down the American flag with an axe. The plan was to use this guy's older brother, who was exiled, who didn't like his younger brother, to overthrow Tripoli. So Commodore Barron comes into the Mediterranean with 11 more ships, and they're going to try to overthrow Tripoli using Hamet Karamanli, who is the older brother of Yusuf Karamanli. The Americans marched their forces across the desert, and they captured the town of Derny on April 27, 1805. So like I said, 95% of the fighting was naval fighting between the pirates, between the American vessels. But when they got to the Mediterranean, Commodore Barron, they marched the American forces across the desert in North Africa, captured the town of Derny, April 27, 1805, with the help of Hamet Karamanli. This is Commodore Barron. Here's some more pictures of some naval fighting. It's an American vessel here. This is the town of Derny. This is they marched their forces across, the American soldiers marched their forces across the North African desert to capture this town of Derny in Tripoli. 1805, a treaty was signed releasing the sailors and eliminating further tribute payments. So after they marched their troops across the desert to capture this town, in 1805, a treaty was signed releasing any of the sailors that were enslaved and eliminating any further tribute payments. So Commodore Barron shows up in the Mediterranean Sea, uses the older brother of Yusuf Karamanli. They march their forces across the desert of North Africa, their combined forces. They attack the town of Derny on April 27, 1805. They capture that town, and then a few months later, treaty was signed, releasing any of the sailors and eliminating any further payments. That is your lesson for today. Make sure you go over and take your quiz for today, April 2nd, Thursday, U.S. History. Go over and take your quiz. Thank you.